All right, welcome to week 6. This week we are dealing with chapter 5 on civil rights. Of course, we know from dealing last week with chapter 4 that civil liberties are protections against government intrusion. They're basically designed to erect a barrier and to say the government cannot do certain things. Civil rights recognizes that within a federal system, though, that historically certain groups of people have been subject to discrimination, to the denial of civil liberties, and the result is that they, have a claim on government to ameliorate this, the sin, if you will. Um, and of course, the number of people who have, who have made civil rights claims, is fairly significant. Of course, blacks, Native Americans, both, were subject to, severe discrimination. Blacks, of course, were subject to enslavement. Women have systematically been denied equal rights. Um, we should always keep in mind that the origin point of civil rights is going to be the 14th Amendment, and to some extent the Constitution's guarantees of due process. But the 14th Amendment is the one that basically says you have a right to equal protection under the law. And so over the course of this chapter, you're gonna learn about sort of the various political movements that many of which really the first serious successful movement, of course, was the civil rights movement that began in the really began at the turn of the 20th century, but began to make serious headway in the 1950s, of course, with the Brown versus Board of Education decision. So um, this week we have, of course, the forum, we have the quiz, and then you have your second critical thinking assignment. This is one that basically suggests that there is something important about the idea of implied rights, that enumerated rights are clear, they're not hard to understand, they're relatively straightforward to apply, but there are lots and lots of implied rights that go with it, and I think this article suggests, for example, that your right to keep and bear arms implies the right that you have to train with your weapon as well. Likewise, your First Amendment right implies that you have a right to demand quality education. The fact that those rights are not necessarily always treated equally by the federal courts is an important question. So I think we have a lot to talk about this week. I think this can be a very kind of interesting week. I know several of you have engaged with me on a number of issues. Please don't be afraid. I don't necessarily, I don't penalize you for talking to me and for taking me on if you disagree with me. I'm okay with that. I think that's important. I think that part of learning how to be a citizen is to question authority. And, like it or not, I'm authority. I assign grades in this class, and therefore, I have a certain amount of power over you. Please be aware, I don't try to abuse it. I am trying to teach you. I am not trying to punish people who disagree with me. But if you do disagree with me, make sure you're arguing from a position of good faith and you're not just making assertions. So anyway, hope we have a great week. Hope we do good work.